So yes, it's great to have you here, and as I say, it's really cool. Like it's one evil, one good, and one who's particularly sci-fi as well too. It's wonderful. So, your thoughts about Armageddon in New Zealand so far? Just to start off, you enjoying yourselves?
Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. I mean, it's huge. I didn't expect such a huge event. Crazy and cool.
Did you think it would be more Hobbit-sized, or what? Just thought we were all little people here in New Zealand. Yeah. We're proud about sort of our Armageddon. It's getting bigger and bigger, isn't it? Yes? Yeah. Yes, the fans make it so good, lovely. And is it the first time for all of you here to New Zealand?
First time.
Yeah,
first time for New Zealand.
Yeah.
But not for me.
No, you haven't.
I think it's my maybe third time or even more. I don't know. Yeah.
And have you guys managed to have a look around?
I was that lucky to even be able to tour the whole North Island and see the absolute incredible beauty of this country. So
Have you been down south yet?
never.
Not with a real
That's
museum.
the next time.
Next trip for me too, down
Right,
south.
lovely, okay. Good. Well, I'm from Dunedin, which is down south, so make sure you go down there because it's really beautiful. I mean, it's okay up here. Ooh, I get this weird kind of vibe from the crowd when I do that. So, any questions again? So do please line up here as well. I'm sure we have questions happening here. In fact, is there anything you want to say before we start with questions?
Just so happy to be here, and everyone's been so lovely. I have to say that New Zealanders are the kindest of all the fans, the most warm-hearted.
Yeah, I agree. Lovely, sweet, kind people.
You know,
Beautiful country.
it's very kind. You know the things to say to New Zealanders because New Zealand has this weird thing of always asking, making sure that everybody's happy. We run up like little hobbits. We're always like, do you like New Zealand? Is that fun? Is everything fine? Do we understand? I've seen people come along going, yes, just don't do that. It's very strange. But we're like somebody who's just tidied the house and is very proud. So. But without further ado, your first question.
Hi, my name is Lily. I just want to thank you guys so much for coming all the way down here to see us. So I am a graduating student and kind of in a place where I don't really know what I'm doing, and you all have such successful careers and you're all obviously passionate about what you're doing. I just wanted to ask, how do you know when you find your thing that you're passionate about, that you want to do for the rest of your life?
If we're talking about finding something you're passionate about, you won't have a doubt about it because you'll have the passion for it, so in that way. But if you're in that position where it feels ambivalent and you don't quite know, then I think you have to be very kind to yourself and keep saying yes to things that present in front of you, and then I think it reveals itself at some point.
What about what if your passions change over time? That's a question for all of us. You know, when you're young, things seem interesting and incredibly fantastic, but they may not be. So it's complicated.
I've been lucky. I've wanted to do it since I was 6, and it's never changed. I've never wanted to do anything else. So it's just been such a big part of my life, and I absolutely love it. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Next question. I guess it's you guys.
Who inspired you all to be an actress?
Oh, who inspired us all to be an actress? Who inspired me to be an actress? That's such a good question. I'm trying to think. I started when I was very young. In America, it's very traditional to be sent away for 2 months over the summertime in the East Coast to go to camp. And I was doing a play. When I was 8 years old, I was the Blue Fairy in Pinocchio, and I had to sing When You Wish Upon a Star. And my knees were shaking really strong, and it was terrifying, but I loved it. So I guess summer camp was my inspiration. It wasn't a person, but summer camp.
That was kind of the same. The stage school inspired me, because I went and my brother joined the stage school, and I went to watch them all. And I just absolutely fell in love with what they were doing. So yeah, I was more stage.
Interesting, me too. High school production of a play in English, directed by an Englishman in the socialist Yugoslavia, where I lived and grew up. This guy came very young and breath of fresh air and completely different than anything we knew, and directed a play with us. You know, that moment when I stood on that stage and when the lights came down and I felt the power and the magic was the deciding moment for me.
Interesting. So similar.
Like an epiphany, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Hi Sarah, would you like a Welsh flag? We're a family from Wales, from Penclough.
I would absolutely love a Welsh flag, thank you.
There's a Welsh messenger too, you know.
Thank you so much, thank you.
Is that a Welsh? Yeah.
What a cool flag.
Yeah, we have a dragon. Yeah, it's very cool.
Unbelievably cool.
Okay, next question.
Hi, this is for Helen. I was wondering about your role as Superwoman. Did you find pressure as a young person, as a role model for young women? Because I have a 11-year-old girl, and she does talk about like that Candace. She loves Candace from the Hunger Games, and she just talks about it all the time. Do you feel a responsibility for younger girls when you talk about that role, or was it just a job? Like, woo, I'm Supergirl.
I mean, at the time, I was quite young. I was 18 years old when I got the part.
You're still hot.
So, thank you. I think I caught that. I don't think I was really thinking about being a role model. I was just wanting to do a good job, honestly. It was such an intense experience because I had to gain 15 pounds. I was training, weight training, swimming, horseback riding, sword fighting, trampolining, learning how to fly. So it was this very, I was trained by Alf Joy to train Christopher Reeve for Superman, and they had perfected this regimen. And I think just psychologically, I had sort of rolled up my sleeves just to go to work and wasn't really thinking of what it was actually going to mean after that. So,
Thank you. Enjoy your time.
thank you.
Sorry, just before the next question, can I get in there? You just casually threw in there learning how to fly. That was great.
I didn't get it.
Oh, beg your pardon. You just casually threw in there learning how to fly in that list of things there.
Yes.
That was great. You mean wires? You say the same person trained you as trained Christopher Reeve? Is this to do with...
Yes, to do, because in Supergirl there's an aerial ballet at one point, Chris and I both, we flew with a diaper harness and these piano wires that would go to a construction crane, and they would make you fly by, those construction cranes have very long noses, so it would be on a track, these two piano wires would come down to this leather harness, and two men would be on a barrel that would go like this, and that would make you go that way, and then two other men would be on a rope that would pull you up, and that's how they would make you fly. And this ballet that we shot in Scotland actually is really more a testament to those guys, because they had to, I had to be landing on rocks, jumping up, doing a somersault, doing a swan dive, going across this beautiful, so they were, I mean, it looked like I was flying, but they were definitely big men with a lot of hair helping me.
Excellent. Next question.
Hi, this is a question for Amira. It's maybe a little bit long in how I get there, but for me, Lost is probably the TV show that changed my life in regards to me actually watching serialized television. I never really enjoyed it too much. One day, someone said, "Hey, have you seen this TV show called Lost?" And so I turned it on, and all of a sudden, I was addicted. Me and my wife would watch it every week. It got all the way through, and I really liked the fact that Lost was, at the end of it, I figured out Lost is so focused on, we only knew secrets that the characters knew. If the characters never knew it, we were privy, then break and forth, or they didn't show us stuff that didn't exist. And I really liked the end and how everything wrapped up. And I really liked your character, but I really wanted to ask you, how did you feel about the end of the show? Did you enjoy it? And what was it like to work with such a great cast?
Well, I really, truly enjoyed being in Hawaii and getting to know the islands, the beauty of those islands. So that was really, really fantastic. And I was very excited when I got the role and started working on the show. And I had some lovely moments with Naveen Andrews, who was a fantastic actor, beautiful, wonderful. but then, you know, as time progressed, that storyline got lost. It lost. And that left me, I can't say too happy or too excited. So there was a lot of frustration about that. I was a part of, I was a part of a huge, big machine, and that's a very, I don't know if I did the best in the circumstances, so it's a complicated relationship that I had with that experience. let me just say that. Anyway, Hawaii was wonderful. There were some great moments with some of the cast members, and I got to work with, I wish I got to work with Terry O'Quinn, who's a wonderful actor, but my feeling was that I just touched it, and then it was over, that kind of thing.
Question?
Short Waihirima, my name's Jo. The question's really for Mira, and it's Babylon 5 because I'm a B5 freak. With Andreas Katsulas, who played Jakar, what was it like working with him?
It was one of my best experiences as an actress in my whole life. Andreas, who unfortunately died, was one of the best actors I've met. He worked, for 15 years with Peter Brook. He was incredibly dedicated, focused on his profession. But he also had this, I've never seen an actor who had such freedom with his choices. Whatever he chose to do, he did it with absolute abandon, and such dedication that everything worked. That man was covered from the bottom to the top by glue and rubber. And it worked so brilliantly, and through that rubber and through that latex, his soul came through. You all saw that. It was so obvious, He also had the lenses, can you imagine? Red lenses. So how do you act with all that? And where are you? I remember when I first began doing Babylon 5, when I got that role in the pilot, I was also covered from, my whole face, nothing was showing. And they wanted to put lenses in my eyes, and they wanted to change my voice. And I truly, I was incredibly depressed and thought, this is the end of everything, of my profession, of my career. Where am I? Who am I? Where am I as a human being, as an actor? And then Andreas came to me and said, just remember, all acting began with masks in ancient Greece. Find freedom in that, how do I say that? In that unfreedom, in that within these limits, find your freedom, and you can fly even more than when you are yourself. Kind of the frame takes you away from yourself and gives you freedom. So he taught me a big lesson. Yeah, he was incredible. He was incredible. We did that scene. I always, I'm repeating myself, but I'm talking about, that's one of the highlights of my 5 years in Babylon 5. It was just an ordinary scene, a lot of exposition, a lot of talking, huge pages of dialogue and so on. I learned my lines, I come to the set, and then I face Andreas, who starts the scene. Tears rolling from his eyes. He lifted it up to such a level, completely unexpected level for me, that I rose to the occasion. When the other actor makes you better, what else can you ask for in this life, being an actor? I think that's the gift, that the biggest gift you can get. So you want to be with great people because they make you better.
That's a great answer, and again, I'm just going to get something in here before we move on to the next question there. Sarah Madison, you are the weeping angel. You are the most menacing character, as I said before, by the eyes of many in Scifi at the moment. It's terrifying. The idea is terrifying. And working around influential people, just like Mira said just then, and not focusing on the fact that women in sci-fi and all that kind of thing, that shouldn't be specialised or singled out in any way. But do you find that you've had battles to fight against that perhaps you might not have expected to run into, or you had to overcome certain difficulties in those areas?
It's not been too bad for me. All the work that I've kind of done, it's the crew and the cast members have just been so brilliant, and it just makes your job a whole lot easier because they're so friendly, and you walk on set, you don't know anyone, so you're very nervous, but they just make it so easy for you. Yes.
That's good, and in similar areas as well too, Mira, right from your Ambassador Delaney in Babylon 5 and Danielle Rousseau and Lost, all those huge influential things as well there too, and Helen Pugh as well too, the most famous role in Supergirl, but also Secret of My Success, all these other films starring alongside the big stars throughout the ages. Similar things, any difficulties that you've found or shared?
Difficulties just working with very famous actors?
Yes, or perhaps difficulties for women in films and things as well. Have things changed or got better? I don't know whether it's a touchy subject or just...
Yeah, I mean, I don't tend to get into the sexism issue. I think I'd rather just focus on positive and that there's stuff that... but yeah, there's always challenges when you're walking on a set, not as a woman, but if you're coming into a new show, or if you're with someone who's, I mean, my early years, my biggest films were when I was in my 20s, so I always was working with actors that were more famous than me, and you just hope they're going to be kind and generous. And it's funny, I was just talking to one of my friends about this, who also has been working for many, many years, about in film and television, many times there's no real rehearsal process, and the courage it takes to maybe ask another actor who's starring in a show and you are the guest star or on a film, and just say, how would you feel about maybe rehearsing? Could we? It takes actually courage to do that, because sometimes the confines are very different and things are going at such a fast pace. Anyway, I know now I was just doing a series where I was the mom to a bunch of kids, and I would love, the lead actress, Alexandra Chandos, she would just come to me, can we run lines, can we? And I was so of course, yes, let's, but that's an interesting thing that's, I don't know, just about rehearsing when you're doing film and television.
Nice, thank you. Next question from Superman here.
As you can tell, I'm a massive Superman fan. Just a question for you. How do you feel about the Man of Steel movies and how they've gone so far? Do you see a role in that anytime soon?
Do I see a role for myself in that?
Yeah.
I just love questions where the actors are in some grand position of power. Yes, I see myself in the role. Make it happen, somebody. I'm a big fan of the Chris Reeve movies, so I'm very nostalgic for that. It just is, I was a young girl when they came out, and I was just so in awe and thought they were beautiful films. So they're just a personal favorite of mine. And I was on Smallville. I played Kal-El's mom. Okay, what was her name? I'm jet lagged. Lara, there we go. Anyway, so in Smallville, they loved doing that. They would bring in actors that had been in some either Superman or Supergirl franchise for me, and use them in the Smallville series, and that was great fun. Great. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Next question.
Hello. This is really directed to Mira. I wanted to say that I shared your disappointment that you didn't get to work with Terry O'Quinn, because when Russo was introduced, I immediately thought, oh, she and Locke should get together and be a mad jungle couple and live in a treehouse and hunt pigs together. But it didn't happen.
I know. That was kind of in the air, but yeah.
My actual question is about Ambassador Lev. And I think that one of the reasons why why she's an interesting character to me is her moral ambiguity, that she isn't purely good, that she has made compromises and has done some pretty severe things in the past, but still develops as one of the heroes of the series. And I was wondering what your thoughts were about that.
The ambiguity of Dylan. I mean, she was so good. I don't see any ambiguity. I mean, I wish she had more ambiguity. I mean, I have to tell you. What do you mean? She was so right in all her choices. I mean, that character, don't you think?
I'm thinking largely about the past of the character before Babylon 5, the series begins properly. The war between Earth and the Minbari and the tough decisions that she made during that time, compared with what we see her going through over the course of Babylon 5, and also becoming something closer to human as you went through that transformation from the bald head with the rigid bone to actually having your own hair out, which I imagine was a great relief.
It was, yeah. I don't know quite how to answer your question though, because I always saw her as this super positive character, you know, with no dark sides, almost. I don't know, maybe you can educate me on that. Maybe there were some dark sides that I didn't quite notice.
Interesting to hear that perspective, thank you.
Right.
I have another question for you, Mira. I'm a big fan of Babylon 5, thanks to my husband, who introduced me to the series. And actually, I had a question about your character, Delenn, as well. I really admired Delenn's character, and I was wondering how much of yourself do you see in her character, and what are some of the similarities between yourself and also maybe differences?
I'm super positive without any dark sides, no ambiguity whatsoever, and whatever I do is right. I mean, I'm sure that you will, agree with me. We all use ourselves. That's the only thing we have. That's our instrument, ourselves. So I guess there was a lot of me in Dylan, as it is with every role I did, or anybody does, I think. So you use these elements of yourself and kind of find not similarities, but kind of common ground with what the material offers. Don't you think that that's kind of what we do? So it's always you know, and some people are different. Some people play very distinct characters, you know. I don't know. I think I'm always me in some way, you know, but adjusted to the material, or vice versa. Who knows? It gets very vague. It's very acting. I think is very instinctual, and that's why it's very hard to teach it. Because it's just a thing that you do. You have this instinct and you go for it, and so somehow you do it. I don't quite know how. But yes, absolutely. Also, Joe Straczynski, who's a wonderful writer, used pieces of my actual story, you know, from the war, from leaving Yugoslavia, from, you know, rebelling against that war, and so on and so forth. I discussed it all with him. He saw some of my writing about that, and he somehow incorporated it into the story. So yes, he did that. He also did it on a much, you know, much more superficial, but also very interesting level. Just watching people interact with each other during lunches and so on. He watched us, and then all at once you would see like a glimpse of conversation in the next script. Yeah, it was fun. It was great.
Thank you.
I'm going to sneak in a question here just to raise I don't know why it's a silly question, and I guess it kind of fits in with the question. Helen, what's the most ridiculous question you've been asked by any super fan or Smallville fan?
Oh my goddess. The most ridiculous question? All right, let me think. The most ridiculous question I've ever been asked. I mean, ridiculous. Like I can't even think. I mean, the I am really stuck. Hold on, let me just think. I can do this. Hold on one second.
And you'll fly.
Yeah, I mean, it would be something like that, but I don't think they did. I think, you know what, it's not that it's a ridiculous question, but people will ask if I kept the costume. And that's not ridiculous, but it's made me realize that there was no way I was ever going to be allowed to take any part of the costume. It was such a, I don't know, there was some sort of copyright or patent or something on it. So that's not ridiculous, but people will ask, like, did you get to keep the costume? Do you have any something? And there's just no way I would have ever been allowed to have kept any.
It's slightly iconic, I see what you mean, is to take it away from you. So they never, I mean, I'm just thinking of, did they ever say, is it a shame that you never get to wear kryptonite jewelry or something like, you know what I mean, like people sort of take it away.
You just won.
There we are, I think I just won. Look, it's the dumbest question ever. All right, on to some real questions. Here we are, next one.
Hi, my question's for Sarah. I know you talked about being a weeping angel, but I'm wondering what it was like for you being a time zombie.
The time zombie. Yeah, that was actually, I found that one more difficult than the angel because it was a lot more physical. Like when we did the choreography for it, it started out very animalistic, and we had to work out, you know, what percentage of it was kind of animal, what percentage of it was human. So, you know, that was a bit tiring on the legs and and everything like that. But yeah, it was more difficult than Angel, but just as interesting to play. You know, I got to jump on the actor and melt his face off, which was
Who was on to do that?
that was my favourite day on set. Yeah, I had a little smoke machine, little smoke things coming out of my hands and everything. So yeah, it was really interesting. I think it was easier for me to kind of get into that role because it was so interactive with the other characters. So yeah.
Thank you. Next question.
Hey guys, how's it going? Yeah, that's good. Just a opportunity I just wanted to ask is if you could share one piece of wisdom that you guys have, you know, experienced over your time with the younger generation, what would it be?
I would say just to keep going. You're gonna deal with a lot of rejection, and you have to make sure that doesn't bother you, and that you just keep going for it. If you're passionate enough about it, you will get it.
I'm a mother of a 16-year-old, and I'm trying to figure out what the inspirational, you know, message to him would be. But it's very hard in this world that we live in. Yeah, keep your focus and work. I mean, now I'm addressing him, who's not so keen on work. Work, why don't you do that homework? Just for the fun of it, for the fun of finishing something and doing it well. Just for the sake of doing it well, you know, not for a, yeah.
It's funny, my daughter's in theater school right now at NYU, and she emailed me this morning about one of her acting teachers just off the cuff saying something to her that was hard. It was hard for her to hear. And I feel like if I were to give any, which I did sort of write to her as gently as I could, that there are going to be things said to you throughout whatever your career is. It'll be acting or something, and you keep what's good, and then you really have to disregard the rest. Like you can feel if there's truth or if someone says something that's along the way that's going to help you. But you also, as a young person, that ability, and it's hard, but to navigate, like, you know what, not so much from that person. That part, no. So that kind of ability to just take what's good and just disregard the rest. That's what I
Thanks for some good answers, Ian. Cheers.
Next question.
I've got two questions for Sarah. The first one I might be wrong on. There's a scene where Amy Pond's blind and she can't see and the weeping angel actually moves. Was that you?
Yeah, I was one of them. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
cool. Sweet. How was that different than standing still? Was that really hard on the outfits?
It wasn't, with the angel, it's not too bad because I've got full movement in my arms and my neck and everything like that. It's just the body I can't kind of move. So when it's just the head movement that you're doing, it was, you know, it was easy enough to do. It's kind of hard knowing where to actually move to when you're blind yourself, because you can't see through the mask. But yeah, it was good because I could see how it would look in my mind, and I thought this is just gonna be a really good scene. And yeah, people seem to like it, which is good. And yeah,
Were you really blind? I mean, like as an actor? I mean, you couldn't see?
No.
No.
Sometimes the makeup artist was able to put my eyes in a angle where I could see just a little tiny bit. That helped a lot, but yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And my second question, is there like statues of weeping angels and set and everything? Or is it all done in makeup?
With the Christmas episode, there was some for like the distant shots, but basically they're not as good as I am.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Who's first?
Question for the ladies regarding fame and fandom. Was it what you expected? What were you expecting? How did it turn out?
I wasn't expecting anything at all. This is you know, the whole world of conventions and stuff like that was such a shock. It still is these days. So yeah, I wasn't kind of expecting anything, and then all this kind of comes from it. And yeah, it's, you know, the people that I meet in particular are just so lovely. They're so passionate about the show, and it's really nice to see, because you know you only work on the show every so often, but you keep reliving it because you have stories to tell and all this kind of stuff. So I just keep getting put back into the time where I was just having a great time. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I had a couple of lives. So in my previous life, I was famous. Yeah, very famous. I don't know if it brought me any happiness, especially when the war started, because I was used in the war propaganda and so on. So I have very mixed feelings about fame. Fame can be dangerous. It can be. You have to know how to deal with it, and it's sometimes very hard. But as for the, I don't consider myself famous in America, but definitely. But in the science fiction world, due to Babylon 5, that sort of thing that happened was completely new to me. And when I did my first convention, and I told the fans a little bit about how I came to America and what happened before, and about the war and so on and so forth, somebody from the audience screamed at me, "Welcome to a new family," and that was beautiful, and it really was true. I see that now. It's been 20 years since the beginning of Babylon 5, so I needed that. I really needed that, because I felt completely lost in the world. I lost everything. Leaving my country, my career, my profession, and so on. So to get to this new family was a huge deal and a big gift, and I'm grateful for it.
Wow, that's just so incredible. I haven't heard that before. I think fame is very tricky, very tricky. I don't feel famous as that is, and if I ever did feel famous, I'm sure I would just fall flat on my face immediately, like as I'm leaving here. I think, I don't know, there's bigger things to do. I live in Los Angeles, and you're always having this feeling, for me, where you're kind of having to go back to square one with auditioning, or with going to pursue work, or I'm a composer, so writing music, so anything where you might have your mind or ego thinking about fame, or that just can't even be anywhere around. You have to keep yourself vulnerable and sort of open, and yeah, so I don't know if that's much of an answer, but that's my answer.
Next question.
Hi, my question is for Sarah. There's been a lot of questions about you and your Doctor Who characters, but what's your favourite non-Doctor Who character? I know you're in the medieval horror and the medieval realism.
Oh, I think my favourite character is probably the one that I did earlier this year and will be carrying on next year, which is a vampire in a web series called Cops and Monsters, because she's such an interesting character to play. You know, it's interesting being kind of evil, and I kind of thank you.
Why are you cast as evil?
I don't know.
You're so incredibly sweet and lovely.
I seem to always be cast as the bad guy, but I enjoy it. I think it's such an interesting kind of character to do. But yeah, so that's my favourite one at the moment.
Excellent. Next question.
Helen, I just want to ask what it was like to work with Michael J. Fox and The Secret of My Success.
I had a great time working with Michael J. Fox. He was, at the time, he was unbelievably well known because of, he was on a TV show called Family Ties that was really popular. So this is before social media. Wherever we would shoot, there just would be throngs of girls. I don't know how they even figured it out in Manhattan, just screaming. And he was very, very charismatic. And I auditioned for that movie. I'm 5'8" and a bit, and he's 5'3". And I auditioned for that movie, and I remember just going for the callback, and there was a desk in the audition, and just kind of like sidling over and kind of bending my right knee to, which doesn't say anything great about the sexism question. But anyway, like that women can't be taller than their man, but whatever. I felt like it would be too much of a height thing, and I just remember that feeling of like, I'm trying to look like I belong with you, or some feeling. But he was just lovely to work with, very kind-hearted and funny, and Canadian, and all that. So yeah.
So, next question.
Hi, this is for Sarah. I am a little bit obsessed with Welsh accents. Like, I love listening to them.
Thank you.
My family thinks I'm crazy. But, but what I wanted to know was, is there anywhere in particular in Wales that you would recommend to visit?
Ooh, maybe Cardiff Bay, where you've got the Doctor Who experience down there and all that kind of stuff. But it's just, yes. Yeah, it's a lovely area. You've got a big theatre there. It's just like a little seaside kind of place. And then if you go in the summer as well, they do have like a little seaside village where they put sand and a little swimming pool and stuff there, which is really lovely to go to. I went there this year for the first time actually. That's a bit bad of me, but yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Next question.
Hello, ladies. Thank you for coming to see us. And obviously, we know Allfield, we know you already, and thank you for bringing your personality to meet us. I suppose my question is along that same line, because obviously, myself personally, we've grown up, watching you guys and seeing characters develop and careers develop and how you've sort of acted there. And that's obviously coloured our view and how we've interacted as we've grown up with other people, our own families and so on. If you could sort of choose a particular way for your acting and what you put across to rub off on the rest of us as we've grown up, what would it be for each of you?
I don't understand the question.
Pieces of advice.
Yeah, it's sort of like, what's the ideal result you would like to see from your acting? Even though, as you say, it has been a job for you guys, whereas, for us, it's something we watch and something we identify with while we're watching it. And as we grow up in that, it helps colour who we are. Is there a particular piece of your experiences as an actor and in the roles that you've played that you'd like to see rub off on culture, on people as they're growing up?
Interesting question. I mean, for me, from an acting point of view, I feel like I have more of a work workman's mentality. So whether it's rehearsing or filming or what ends up in the final production once they add music and it all sort of comes together, it's really the rehearsal process, the being open and working with another actor is kind of the highlight for me. And I think that comes through in certain films or television pieces when something feels very alive or you feel moved by something. It's usually because in that rehearsal process or they captured something on film in that moment, and that's maybe translated back to the audience. But I don't know that I could pick one thing that I would say I hope rub off.
Well, that's exactly the sort of thing I'm talking about. Because obviously, we think we said things, but this is something.
I would agree with that. These moments of truth, really. If you reach those moments of truth and humanity, then you've achieved your goal. And that's it. That's really the highest goal you can have. And sometimes you don't. You get lost in the process. I mean, there are too many obstacles. At least that happened to me. And I admire people who can rise above it. But sometimes you do, and these are the valuable moments, and they touch you and move you and anyway, glimpses of truth and humanity. That's my answer.
I was just going to say, I just hope my characters don't kind of rub off on people, because that would be very good. Because I'm all poor baby.
You don't want to melt their faces.
Yeah, I know.
Sleeping or something.
Thank you very much.
All right, we have time for just one more question, and it's coming from over there.
Hello, what do you think of New Zealand so far?
I think it's brilliant.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, Sarah.
No, that's what I was just going to say. It's so pretty. We went to Hobbiton, and just, Hobbiton is amazing in itself, but the drive there, it's just so picturesque and so beautiful, and the people, everyone's just been so kind and welcoming to us. It's just been amazing.
One of the actors said it's ridiculously beautiful. It's insanely beautiful. I mean, wherever you turn. I know the North Island pretty well. I mean, I can't even. The very top of the island is a magical place, a sacred place in Maori culture and so on. I mean, Bay of Islands. I just, so I have to really, it's on my list of things that I have to do before I die, to go to the South Island.
Me too.
I was going to say just one more, if that's okay, ladies. One more question. This is the last one here.
Hi. Before I ask my question, I just want to say I'm Sarah. It's been lovely talking to you and getting to know you at the cocktail party and other things. And there's been rumours there may be a vacancy for the Doctor Who companion at the end of the year. And if that's true, I'll keep my fingers crossed that you will get it. Yeah. Ladies, we're big fans of Black Mirror. Every time you buy DVDs, you should jump to that part at the start. Can you share us any stories from any shows you've been on? Things that could have gone sideways? Funny light-hearted stories?
Oh, who are you talking to?
From the three of you.
Stories about...
Just there's always a gag reel where someone misses their cue, misses their mark, something that's a bit crazy. Outtakes.
I have one. While I was filming Amityville Asylum, it was done quite locally in Swansea, and no, it wasn't Amityville Asylum actually. It was Theatre of Fear, which is the same company, and I filmed that last year in October. And my character, basically, she volunteers to do one of the magic acts on stage, and it doesn't end up very well for her. And so we were filming the scene in the director's shed. And he doesn't live in a very busy place. There's not that many people there. But we were filming in the shed, and I have to kind of like be banging on the door, shouting for help. So I do this scene, and then I go back inside to change, and then suddenly the police turn up. Because there was a building block across the way that had seen two guys walking into this back shed with this girl, and then suddenly her screaming. So I was quite pleased with that. I think hopefully that shows I did a.
Those are those glimpses of truth. Not necessarily humanity, but definitely truth.
I have a memory from shooting Supergirl where, because it was so medieval, how they would make me fly, and there's a scene where I think it's when Supergirl first comes out, and she's coming out of the lake, and there were trees around the lake, and again, it was the two men sort of pulling me up, and then the two guys pulling the rope, and then the one, it was a construction crane type thing. But they couldn't get it exactly right, and I remember I'm coming out and I have to have this beautiful, I'm perfectly coming out of the water. I'm wet for some reason. And I'm coming out and they missed their mark and they're pulling me out, and I did fly into a tree. And they couldn't quite figure it out, and that was, I don't know if they caught that on a gag reel or they kept it, but I have a big memory of just being here comes a tree. Alf Joint did not prepare me. How do I fly into a tree? There was a bang, so yeah.
I don't know. I mean, when I came to Lost, my first moment on Lost, I was in the makeup trailer. They were figuring out my look and so on, all in 15 minutes. What is this character about? Let's figure it out in 15 minutes, and and we were a little bit late in the makeup trailer, so the AD comes, everything is ready, she has to come out, let her come out, we're all ready, and so on. So finally I come out, somebody puts a rifle on my shoulder, puts me in a place near a tree, and the director says, action. And in my head, I'm thinking, wait, where do I go? What do I do? What's going on? Nobody told me. Maybe that's how they do it on these huge shows. I don't know. Maybe I should have known it somehow. I don't know, telepathically. Or maybe there was somewhere where I should have looked, but nobody told me. I'm going crazy. I really am losing my mind, thinking something is expected from me, but I was not told. Nobody told me the rules. I don't know the rules. I can't do this. And at that moment, the makeup guy, I don't know who it is, and I feel like I'm gonna, cry at the moment, because I don't know where to go and what to do, because nobody told me. And then I say, stop, just a second, we need an adjustment for the makeup. And a wonderful makeup artist comes to me, comes very close to my face, does something, and said, I know how you're feeling. Just calm down. They forgot to tell you because they rehearsed with the what's the name? The stand-in, and they just forgot that you were not here. And so I'll never forget that. I was so, and he hugged me and said, and whispered to my ear, you go from that tree to that tree, then you stop, you look at Naveen, and then you go into the woods. And I did it. But that's kind of my experience on that show.
I think we can safely say we enjoyed having these three lovely ladies here on our panel. Thank you so much indeed. Once again, Sarah Madison, Mira Furlan, and Helen Slater. Thank you so much. So good to give us your time. Thank you guys. We can catch you through, are you signing through there? Are you through in the other room, or are you around about the place? Yes, excellent. You can catch them through in the other room there, folks. Another huge round of applause. Thank you for the ladies of Scifi. Some good questions.